Welcome back. It is another edition of Inside Boxing Live presented by PPV.com. It is Dan Canobio. It is Chris Algieri. We're coming off of a ridiculously loaded weekend of boxing all over the globe, all over the continental USA. We made it through 4th of July. If you blew up your fingers, I'm sorry. If you didn't, you're here with us. Chris Algieri is showing us all 10 of his fingers. That's amazing, Chris. How are you?
I'm good. I'm not going to show you my toes because they're jacked, but I still got all 10.
Are you like that athlete, like you got athlete's feet? Like I remember the first time I ever went and like I had an internship with the New York Knicks, and I went to the Knicks locker room and I had my head down because that's what you do when you have an internship. You keep your head down. You don't say a word. And I saw their feet, and I saw an NBA player's feet. And I was like, that is the most decrepit things I've ever seen in my life.
I dated a few dancer females back in the day, and I remember their feet, and they were always like, "Oh, I got dancer's feet." And I'm like, "Yikes!" And then, my feet were no better. I was a kickboxer, so I was barefoot for the first 20 years of my life, kicking people in their skulls. And then it actually got worse when I started boxing and put shoes on. My feet are jacked. And now I'm a runner, so I mean, just compounding everything.
Oh my God. Yeah, that will do it, Chris. That will do it. So what a weekend it was. We had the Shakur Stevenson card over in Newark, which saw Shakur pick up another dominant win. We'll have a lot of thoughts on that because he can't just win. He's got to look like Prime Ali, Mike Tyson, all in one. That card was loaded with a lot of controversy and a lot of action. Over in Golden Boy, William Zepeda picked up a win. Over on the fan meal, the PPV.com, Masvidal Diaz, which I was very much locked into, was an interesting night of fights. But let's start with Shakur. I don't know, man. I thought he was stood in the pocket a lot more. He picks up a unanimous decision win. He lands 44% of his power shots. He threw and landed a ton more. He was willing to throw. He was willing to land those power shots. He held Artem Harutyunan to single digits in 11 of the 12 rounds. He landed 66 body shots, but, Chris, he does not get the stoppage. He does not get that blood that the fans lust for, the red meat. Fans were leaving. ESPN showed fans leaving, which I thought was a little bit of a low blow. But Shakur gets the win. This is his last fight with Top Rank. Let's unpack it.
Yeah, so obviously he's not re-signing with Top Rank, obviously, by the way they presented that, like you said, showing the fans leaving. It seems like they're kind of
Bob Arum was not there.
They're probably shuttling him off like, all right, good, we don't got to worry about you. We don't have to deal with you anymore. But listen, I mean, Shakur did not do himself any favors. And I think part of it is it's his PR team and his PR team being himself. Stop telling people you're going to kick their ass and knock them out. That's not what you are. You don't do that. Be Pernell Whitaker. Pernell Whitaker was the top of the pound for pound for many years, guys. We're rewinding now. Like, Dan, we're old men, right? We've been around this game for a very long time. We remember Pernell Whitaker. A lot of these new fans don't. Pernell Whitaker was a defensive wizard. He knocked out 0 people at the highest level. Okay? He went out there. He made everybody look bad. His defense was otherworldly. He was a wizard. He didn't go out there telling he was gonna knock you out. He said, yeah, I'm gonna whoop your ass. I'll make you look bad. And then he did it, and people enjoyed it. Shakur needs to be that guy. He's just not that guy. He does not know how to build on hurting guys. He does not hurt guys. And then once he does not know how to build on it to get them out of there. He's just not good at it. He gets hit too much when he's trying to go into offensive mode. He doesn't seem seamlessly mix between offense and defense. And that's fine. It's a hard thing to do. You got a guy in front of you who's going to punch back. Artem is actually a good fighter. Ton of amateur experience, physically strong, put up a great performance against Frank Martin. I thought he put up a decent performance last night against Shakur, but he got Shakur. He's got a defensive wizard in front of him. It's the walking into the fight telling everyone I'm gonna knock you out that leaves them longing. If you go out there and be like, yeah, this guy's not going to touch me. I'm going to outbox him. He's going to be swinging at the air. I'm going to touch him here and there, touch him all up. I'm going to beat him up. I'm going to domesticate him, and I'm going to completely shut him off. Yeah, all right, he's good. Cool. I'm going to turn him completely off. I'm going to take his offense absolutely away from him. He's not going to hurt me. He's not going to touch me. This is hit and don't be hit. I'm not going to get hit. I'm going to hit him. I'm going to win. So I think a lot of it is just PR, and it's just his own going into it, and his corner. He keeps coming back. I'm gonna knock him out. Like, dude, don't talk about that. Just go out there and do what you do, man. What you do is a beautiful thing. It's amazing how you really watch him. But I think that a lot of people are expecting things from him that are just not what he is.
Yeah, it's you couldn't be any more spot on. Like it's the Twitterfication, and he had Twitterson on the back of his
I
shorts, like
know.
kind of like trying to poke fun at the fact that he's constantly on Twitter. This is a guy that's out there too much. This is a guy that's listening to every single criticism. This is a guy that's placating to the fans rather than to himself. And I couldn't agree more. You can market a fighter. Look at Floyd Mayweather. I mean, although when Floyd was at Shakur's age, he was much more of a killer. But you can
Yeah.
market guys on being defensive wizards. You could market guys on the sweet science. You could market guys on looking so damn good and just embarrassing and undressing their opponents. But like you said, Chris, if you come out and you're so outspoken and you're so bold and you're almost, you say you have to be delusional in boxing to have some self-belief. But this is like bad delusion from Shakur. Like you're not a knockout fighter. It's very clear now. You're 26 years old. You're entering the second portion of your career. It's not like you're still in the development stages. You are what you are almost at this point. You're not going to start developing that killer instinct unless something drastically changes inside of that ring, which I just don't see happening. So therefore, this is what you are, and it's damn good. Like you dominated this guy last night. You didn't just beat him. Like you beat him way more convincingly than Frank Martin did.
Way
Frank
more.
Martin was life and death. Frank
Yeah.
Martin in the 12th round needed an unbelievable round just to get to the decision. You dominated this fight. You landed 45% of your power shots. You held this guy to single digits. You did whatever you wanted there. You were hammering to the body. But by the 6th or 7th round, when I saw Artem, sucking wind walking back to his corner, it looked like a lot of fighters would have gotten Harutyunan out of there, would have found a way to
Yeah.
get him out of there.
Round 6
I thought,
is
all right,
exactly it.
exactly, round 6. I was like, this is it. Even though the DraftKings had plus money for Shakur by decision, which I thought was, I only put 100 on it. I wish I put everything I had on that fight. But I was like, I got a little nervous in those middle rounds because I was like, okay, not nervous, but like I would love to see Shakur get a stoppage. I was like, this is it. He's going to do what I thought he's going to do. He's going to, death by 1,000 cuts. He's going to, precision, and he's going to piece this guy up and he's going to stop him. He just doesn't have that second gear like you talked about. But I think it does go back to the marketing. And I think it goes back to him just putting his foot in his mouth over and over and over again to the point where he is completely typecasted by fans. Like it is like the amount of memes I saw last night, Chris, on Twitter of people sleeping, people like boring. He's just labeled now. It's going to be almost impossible for him to shed that because he's done such a bad job in the marketing aspect of the game, which is a huge part of the sport.
Well, I think part of it also comes down when you're watching the interactions with him in his corner when he's telling him, I'm going to knock this guy out. I'm going to knock this. He said that he was saying that almost every round coming back. He's just not aware of what he is. And that's is more of a problem than anything. If he was going out there and he was just trying to trick Vegas and being like, oh, I'm stopping this guy. And then, he doesn't. And he gets the decision, like you said, plus money on a decision because everyone thinks he's gonna stop him. That's one thing, but it's not. It seems like he thinks he's going to stop these guys. And then when he doesn't, it's going to affect him as well. I think he just needs to change up the script because listen, his talent is undeniable. He is a sublime talent. His defensive skills are par with no one else in the sport today. But you're just not a knockout puncher. You're not a beat a guy up, beat him down, break him down kind of guy. Not to take anything away from Artem. He's a very, very tough guy. He came in great shape, obviously. People forget that he took the Frank Martin fight on short notice and came in and showed his ass out. So, he had a better prepared Artem. Another thing about him, he's got like hundreds, I think like 300 amateur fights. This guy, he's a very, very good fighter. So Shakur being able to completely shut him off is impressive. But when you sell it a different way and then you underdeliver, you're going to leave fans longing. There's no other question about that.
Yeah, and you talk about how he needs to flip the script. So this is his last fight with Top Rank. The thing with boxing contracts, and you would know this way better than me, is that they're so complicated. We never know truly when a fighter is at the end of their contract with a promoter. Where in baseball, we know that Aaron Judge is going to be a free agent at the end of 2022. We know in basketball that LeBron is up for contract. In boxing, it's so muddied, so you don't know. It has never been more clear that Shakur Stevenson is a free agent, and this was his last fight with Top Rank. He's wearing a shirt that's had something message towards Bob Arum. Arum doesn't show up. He's doing this interview with Kriegel. They are very open about what went wrong at Top Rank between him and Shakur. He said, listen, they built me beautifully from the Olympics until my last fight. before the De Los Santos fight, he said, I thought it was amazing. It was. I mean, they really built this kid perfectly, I thought. I mean, it's on him for not being able to figure out ways to change up his style a little bit and the stuff we just talked about inside the marketing and whatnot. But now he is seemingly done with Top Rank. He turned down a 5-fight, $15 million deal, which would have paid him at least $3 million per fight. Turned that down because he is steadfast on heading out into the open market. We talked about this last on the show. You remain in the corner that he should stay with Top Rank. Are you still sticking with that, or do you feel like he needs a new, I don't know, a new home, a new look, just a refresher? Because he says that Top Rank has not been able to deliver him the big fight.
When you get that other information where he says it that way, and I have to take his word for it. If he says that they can't deliver the fights, and then that's something to think about. And if that's the case, then yeah, you got to move on. But I think that if he had flipped his own script in terms of his PR and marketing himself, and then stuck with Top Rank and then just kept collecting titles, he's got to go the route where I'm just going to beat everybody. Yeah, it's hard to get the fights, but when you got Baranchek, who's a super beatable champion, on the same side of the street as you, and now you can be a 2-belt holder in one weight class. Guys, I say it all the time. Belts bring money, belts bring negotiating power. If you have 2 belts, it's that much more. It almost doubles your ability to negotiate, and we live in the world of unifications. And granted, we got a guy like Tank Davis who says he doesn't care about belts, but yeah, guys, everybody cares about belts, and everybody wants to see that fight.
Start caring now.
Yeah, everyone's going to start caring, and Tank's going to start caring now. It seems like Tank has flipped the script in terms of his own marketing as well, in a good way, in a positive way. So, yeah, I still don't think Top Rank was the worst case, but that's dead and gone now. That bridge seems to be burned. That's the thing about Top Rank. If you decide that you're not going to sign with them, you're going to get the treatment you got last night. They're going to show people leaving. They're going to talk about, they're going to discuss how he's just not that guy, and he's not that, explosive and most entertaining guy, which is unfortunate because he is a super talent in the sport today. But listen, we're big Shakur fans on this. Probably me more so than even you, Dan. But I'm a big Shakur fan. I'm a boxing purist. I love watching guys do what they do.
I'm not a hater by any means.
No, I'm not saying that. But I'm just saying, like, I'm a huge proponent for him and even that style. And I keep bringing up Sweet Pea. I'm going to keep bringing up Sweet Pea. Pernell Whitaker. Pernell Whitaker, even though he was a defensive fighter, even though you're going to guarantee you're going to get 12 rounds, he was still entertaining. He knew how to kind of sell his style and make guys look bad. And Shakur can too. He just needs to learn how to sell it while he's doing it. But even in that comparison, if you look at that fight last night, there were times where Shakur is imposing his physical size, his strength. He's walking Artem down. He's throwing punches. He's hurting him. He's landing. It's still very different than Pernell. Like, he's definitely not a bad puncher. He's just not a good finisher. And I always say that all the time. Like, yeah, there's punchers and there's finishers. And a lot of times punchers don't always get knockouts. Finishers get knockouts. And it's not always the guy with the biggest punch who gets all the knockouts. Finishers are different. Look at Zepeda.
Mentality, right?
William Zepeda, mentality. William Zepeda, he's not a puncher. He's not like a one-punch guy, but he gets finishes. He stops you because he has the mentality that I'm going to run you roughshod until you're no longer want to be here. And it's just a different mentality. And I don't think Shakur is weak. I don't think Shakur is not strong. He showed his physical strength last night against a very strong guy. But he's just not a finisher. And that's okay. You don't have to be. It's going to hurt you in marketing. It's going to hurt you in money-making opportunities. But that's why he just needs to be the guy, kind of like how Floyd was at the higher weight classes. I just have to beat everybody. But getting those fights is tough. And that's where having the promotional arm is really important.
Yeah, he might take a little short money now, Shakur, if he says he wants these elite. Like, the biggest fight for him is Tank Davis. They're in the same weight class.
One of the biggest fights in the sport.
It's one of the biggest fights in sport. But the thing with Pernell, and I saw a tweet last night, it's like, man, you guys I would love to see if Twitter was around when Pernell Whitaker was fighting, because people would have been saying the same exact thing. Yeah. And it's gotten to that point where no matter what Shakur does in there, no one's going to see those little things. No one's going to see him standing his ground last night. No one's going to see the defensiveness. No one's going to see him standing in the pocket and trading, which are all great things. That it's just gotten to the point where the fans are expecting just to stop it. Like, if he would have got a stoppage last night, it would have went such a long way for him. in terms of where he's going to be in the next couple of fights. Just that's all it would have took, but he just didn't get it because, like you said, it's just not exactly who he is inside of that ring. But the thing is, Chris, is he just wins. He wins fights, and he will continue to win fights with this style. It might not be your cup of tea, and I'm seeing the most hardcore of boxing people, even like a Lou DiBella, who knows boxing inside and out, says, I like Shakur. He is very good. I would favor him against a lot of fighters. It's just not my style. I just don't enjoy watching that style of boxing, which is fine. But he wins fights. He can beat Tank Davis.
Yes.
He can beat Devin Haney. He can beat anyone at 130. He can beat William Zepeda.
Teo. He talks about fighting Teo all the time. You know, like
he can beat them all.
We're not saying we're not guys. Listeners, we're not saying he beats all those guys. We're saying he can. Okay.
He can. No, that's what I mean. It's like that style is so sustainable in terms of just making someone look awful. And just doing what you have to do to win, and still being precise inside. They're not going to get the knockout, but you're going to land 40% of your power shots, and you're going to keep the other guy to single digits, which he did to Artem. I understand that Artem is not even a top 10 lightweight. He's on the level of a Teo, a Haney, a Tank, but he can beat those guys. He can beat them, which is why I need to see him with the elites. I don't know how that's going to happen now with this new deal. Like I'm sure he can get them somehow. But I need to see it. I'm not of the school of like, don't even bother making Tank versus Shakur.
I know these people online are crazy.
I see it all day. I saw it last night. It's just like it's a mob mentality. I understand. So that's how Twitter works in every aspect of Twitter, not just boxing Twitter. It's just a mob mentality. So right now, the cool thing to say is that Shakur is ass. Shakur is trash. He can't hang with any Haney. He can't even hang with. He can't hang with Tank. Yes, he can. Like I need to see him versus Tank. I need to see that. Because he can beat them. He will. He can.
The thing about defense is it's so nuanced, and it takes such a trained eye. We've been in this sport for a very long time. We understand what Shakur is and how he is able to beat. That's why we can say that he can beat these guys. Dan, did you see what Lomachenko said? Is this true? I don't know if this is true. They were saying that he was going to step aside. Is that a real thing?
I don't know. That's Kenny Ellis. That's one of Tank's trainers has been for the last 2 weeks posting every day, like day 3 of me watching Vasily Lomachenko tape, and we're going to expose this. He's being very open that they're going to get that fight. And the last thing that he posted was Lomachenko has agreed to step aside and let Tank fight Shakur, and he'll fight the winner. I don't know. If it's real or
not. I saw that and I was like, all right, I don't know how real this is, but I started thinking, right? Because that's what we do here. We think boxing all the time. That's
You're
all we do.
You're a media guy now.
Yeah, all I do is think boxing. And I'm like, that's not a bad idea. Because I think if you're Loma's team and you watched Shakur's performance last night, Loma then goes, you know what? I could potentially beat this kid. Like I can, if he's not that busy and there's opportunities to hit him, if we can slow the pace and it comes down to tit for tat to win rounds, there's ways to beat him in that way. And I just don't think Lomachenko can beat Tank. And if you watch that and you go, listen, I can see how, and Loma's smart, he can look at Shakur and be like, I can see how Shakur can beat Tank. And if I can beat Shakur, let Shakur fight Tank. Shakur potentially beats him, then I have a possibility to beat Loma, which makes, in terms of negotiating, that's like the smartest tactical move ever. But
so
even if Shakur loses... But even if Shakur loses to Tank, then it's like, all right, well, Tank is even bigger now. He just beat Shakur. And then I go fight Shakur. I go fight Tank, excuse me. Win or lose, then it's like it still elevates the fight. It makes more money for the fight. So it's not the craziest move to do, especially if you're being very tactical.
That's a deep thought, Algieri. That's you really took that post. I just breezed right past it.
I did it first. And then it hit me in the middle of the night.
So Lomachenko, you woke up in a deep sleep. Lomachenko is basically playing chess.
I woke up in a deep sleep thinking about Lomachenko's tactical plans for the sport.
his chess move while everyone else is playing checkers for him to finally become undisputed. I don't know. I just think those are the 3 guys right now at lightweight. If they all stay there, like Shakur seems to be making the weight fine. That's another thing too with him is we've seen some of these guys just killing themselves to make 140, killing themselves to make 135. Like he looks super healthy.
He came a pound under. He was 34.
and like not sunken in. Like he
No.
just looks like could stay there for a few years. Tank is obviously super his small 133.8 in his last fight, and then Lomachenko is obviously he is a lightweight, and they're the three best lightweights right now. The three of them are the three best. So figure out a way for them all to fight each other. I don't know if that will happen. I do see Tank and Lomachenko fighting because I just think monetarily, financially, it's just the right fight right now.
I think poor Shakur is going to be sitting out for a bit. I don't think we're going to see him for a little while because of this deal situation.
Well, that goes back to your idea of like him just staying with Top Rank. Fight Baranchyk. It's not a huge fight, but it's another belt. Like
fight him in September. That's easy.
Why are we fighting exactly? Like this heart? It's not. Barancyk's better than Artem Harutyunan, but it's like the same level of a fight in terms of like make it's super easy to make.
I don't know if he's better, honestly. I think Artem's pretty good.
Artem's good, but my point is like if you're gonna be taking these fights, Shakur, that you're clearly better than. Like you should not be fighting Artem Harutyunan at this point. Like you should be in there with the top of the top. So if you're gonna like not get these top fights, and there aren't that many of them, so fight Baranchyk, who has a belt. It was supposed to be Navarrete. Navarrete loses. Like that messed up so many plans at Top Rank. Navarrete losing to Baranchyk. So fight Baranchyk next with Top Rank. Have the two belts. Have some negotiating power. No, you're not going to do that. You're going to say, freak Top Rank. I'm going to go out and do my own thing. And like you said, there's nothing much with Matchroom. They don't really have any connection to the lightweight division. I don't see him signing with Golden Boy. I obviously think a William Zepeda versus Shakur Stevenson fight is the next fight that should be next. He's the fourth best lightweight.
I was gonna jump in with that, but I figured that was a good segue into his fight.
Yes, William Zepeda fought last night and did another William Zepeda thing, is where he just completely erased.
He's a bad dude.
Cabrera, with body shots, just relentlessness. He is the top 4 lightweight too. So Shakur Stevenson versus William Zepeda should be next. Can we get this fight with Shakur being a free agent? Can he work out a deal with Golden Boy to make that fight? Because Shakur's on the outside looking in of this Tank and Lomachenko situation. Fight Zepeda. Get that signature win. You look beautiful doing so.
Zepeda looks like the kind of guy he's ready to fight anybody yesterday. That was very impressive what he did last night with Cabrera, who was in the fight with Cruz. We were there. We watched it live. We were really surprised. I mean, he showed a tremendous chin in that fight, was getting rocked by Isaac Cruz all night long. Actually had some success. Somehow that fight was a split decision or a majority decision, which is insane. Isaac Cruz definitely won that fight, hands down, but was still in the fight. And for Zepeda to absolutely demolish him in 3 rounds and give him hit him with a body shot and him take a full 10 count. That's a big deal early on. So, yeah, Zepeda has established himself last night. Zepeda had a great night last night. Shakur did not. Zepeda had a great night. Shakur did what he's supposed to do. He boxed well, but Zepeda came out the winner last night of all the fighters that fought last night.
Everyone is fixated on Shakur. Well, obviously last night I think Masvidal and Diaz got all the attention, and we'll get to that way later. But Shakur got
not
all
in my
the
world.
attention for all the
not in my world. Nobody I talked to was worried about that one.
Yeah, but Zepeda should get the attention. And just 10 minutes ago on this show, I forgot about him being in the top discussion at lightweight, because that's just how he is being marketed and just how
he's the odd man out.
Buried. He is the odd man out, but he's so freaking good. And Zepeda versus Stevenson should be next. And now I see an opening for that. So it's Shakur. You want to put your money where your mouth is. You want the biggest fights, right? I don't know who he has his mind set out for. Is it Lomachenko? Is it Tank? I don't think he says I want to fight Zepeda. I have to fight Zepeda. But if you're gonna leave Top Rank and you're looking for big fights, meaningful fights, this is it.
Well, is it wrong to say? Zepeda. Is it too early to say Zepeda is the boogeyman of the division? Because of course everyone's going to say Tank, but Tank's the top dog. The boogeyman's not generally noted as the guy who's the number 1 in the division. To me, Zepeda is the dark horse, the boogeyman of the division. The guys that people are going to avoid because he doesn't have a title. He's very, very dangerous. He's goddamn good. So yeah, really I like the idea of going after the boogeyman. I said that about Tio when Matias was fighting. I'm like, yo, fight him next. Fight the guy nobody wants to fight. No, beat that guy.
Mistake's not fighting Matias.
Yeah, slay the dragon, and then you're the man. You're gonna win over the fans. What's that Gladiator quote? Win the fans, win your freedom. Boxing's simply similar, man. You win the fans, you're gonna win the freedom in negotiations, and then people are gonna be clamoring for you. Look at Isaac Cruz. Win the fans, win your freedom. He won the fans when he blasted out Romero, right? He blasts out Rolly, who fans love to hate him. Guys didn't think he belonged there. Isaac Cruz moves up in weight and destroys him and does to him what people expected, any real champion to do to him. He becomes a superstar immediately. Overnight sensation is Isaac Cruz. Win the fans, man. It's important.
No, it's definitely true. And you're right. Boogeyman now means a lot of things. It means you're avoided, and you're also like low risk.
No, low reward. High risk, low reward.
I always mess that phrase up.
Our guy Carl Moretti pointed that out. That you're a wordsmith there, Dan.
Low reward is William Zepeda.
There it is.
And
there it is.
Exactly. So Zepeda gets a win. He looks great. I want to go back to the top-ranked card because there was some heinous judging going on. Absolute highway robbery. Robson Conceição somehow defeats O'Shaquie Foster despite landing 11% of his total punches, despite landing in single digits in 10 of the 12 rounds. Conceição did throw 250 more punches, but Foster landed at a way higher clip. There wasn't one person that I saw or talked to that thought Robson Conceição won that fight. What the hell was that? That's bad. Like Dame Lillard tweeting about how bad that is. Stephen A. Smith tweeting, no wonder boxing is declining when you have scorecards like that. A black eye, once again, Chris. A really, really bad decision.
All right.
A title that changed hands too.
Let me compartmentalize this real quick. First off, one of the worst decisions I've seen in recent memory. Absolutely horrible. 2, Stephen A. Smith. Shut up. Shut up, dude.
He's right.
No, he's right, but don't go all of boxing because of a bad decision. Stop. That's like saying a bad call in football. It's like, this is why nobody watches football. Stop.
Yeah, but that's what Stephen A. Smith does.
Yeah, I know that. That's why I'm saying shut up, because it's your shtick. Don't do that, okay? Everyone does that. This is why nobody watches boxing. Plenty of people watch boxing, guys. Stop. It's a bad decision. Yeah. Horrible decision. Okay, let me get that out of the way, because that pisses me off when people do that. They throw out the baby with the bathwater. Yeah, we had a bad decision. You know how many decisions there are a week in our sport? Stop. Okay, yeah, obviously this was ESPN. Everyone saw it, and it was terrible. I mean, O'Shaquie Foster, the interview with Mark Kriegel afterwards where he's crying, tears in his eyes, holding it together like a man, holding it together, but he can't fight those tears because I felt that, dude. I'm watching him do that interview, and I'm like, man, if that would have happened to me, I know what that feels like. And that's that moment, getting that title taken away from you. And what he said was so crazy. He goes, everyone was kind of getting used to me, being in these tough fights. I just wanted to show that I could move and box. And I thought I shut him out. And it wasn't enough for the judges. That hurt, man, when he said that. It wasn't enough for the judge. Dude, it was enough for everyone who watched. Everyone who watched. Conceição included. Everyone. He didn't think he won that fight. He was getting outclassed. Conceição looked all of 35 years old that night, was lunging on shots, couldn't close the distance. O'Shaquie's distance control was fantastic. His lateral movement was something I've never seen from him before. His power was good. His ability to stop and fire. His athleticism was off the charts. He looked awesome. I didn't think he was that good. I knew he was good. I knew he was very good. Remember, we called the Ray Vargas, and I said, I'm like, O'Shaquie Foster's winning that fight. And he did. And because I had my eye on him for a while. And then he had these really tough fights, come from behind for last round KO, struggles with a guy like
in Mexico.
Yeah. Struggles with a guy like Nova, who isn't like a world level guy. So that was a little disconcerting. But then he comes out here, and he said he had injuries. My arm was hurt, my legs were hurt, I couldn't move the way. And then he goes out there and he does that performance, which I actually predicted Conceição to win that fight. I thought Conceição looked so good in the Navarrete fight. I thought he looked so good in the Oscar Valdez fight. I thought he's been improving. And I thought that O'Shaquie, because he's been looking vulnerable lately, was going to succumb. Not at all. O'Shaquie put on a brilliant performance, was dominant throughout, and they robbed him. Crazy. Worst decision in recent mind. He was like, I thought I shut him out. Yeah. Mark Kriegel going, yeah, I had 11-1. How do we go from shutout 11-1, 10-2, 12-0 to the other guy winning.
It's
crazy.
I don't get it because it doesn't have like the clear signs of corruption. It's not like someone's building Robson Kinsey to be some next type of draw, or they're out to screw O'Shaquie Foster. I just think that Foster, despite all the things, like I did see him winning the fight, it's like he kind of has a style where he doesn't dominate rounds. Like he's winning the rounds very clearly, but he's not putting them away. He's not leaving no doubt, and he leaves a little bit of room for this to happen, even though it should not have happened. But he won this fight, and the crazy thing about it is, like, he was signed to Bella Entertainment, so I was able to cover a lot of his fights on the Broadway boxing circuit when he was just, I wouldn't say starting his career, but restarting. He was in prison. He has a crazy story. He was part of like Hurricane. He was all displaced. Like him and Regis Prograis came up at the same time, and we're all part of the same little circuit up there. Just a lot of adversity for O'Shaquie Foster. Like, was not supposed to be a champion. Rebuilds his career, signs with Top Rank, becomes a champ. Almost gets screwed in Mexico. Becomes a champion. Now sees like some paydays in his future, right? You know, not huge paydays, but paydays as a champion, which is a huge thing when you're not a huge name. Is having that belt, that WBC belt, with you is huge. That's a negotiating table. Now that's gone because this wasn't just a robbery and a fight with no title. This was a WBC 130-pound title fight. That now Robson Conceição is the WBC champion. Like, what? Like, now O'Shaquie Foster, like, it took him forever to get to this point, and he, like, we've seen careers get derailed by bad decisions like this. I hope there's some type of immediate rematch. I hope he can go in there and
guarantee
win.
it. Guarantee it won't be.
But like, who does Conceição? Like, what does he have behind him? Like, he's
Top Rank.
Is Conceição going to try to go for some of the unifications at 130?
Yeah,
like, I don't get it.
Yeah,
I just
100%.
think it's.
Top Rank is gonna feed him for the rematch for Oscar Valdez. He's gonna get the rematch with Navarrete. You know, you got these rematch opportunities when their guy is going to win. They're gonna push the Mexican fighters because that's the way that it works. They've got a built-in fan base. There's not a Brazilian contingent of fans, so you got this guy who's very beatable. And
Foster doesn't have fans really either.
Exactly. So that's where the conspiracy, which just makes sense, comes into play, and it's crazy, and that I really feel for him, and I'm going to use all my platforms to go to bat for O'Shaquie Foster because that is a disgusting thing that happened to him.
But the same thing happens, Chris. It's just like there's outrage today, there's outrage Monday, there's outrage Tuesday, and then we're on to the next fight. We're on to the next week, especially with someone like O'Shaquie Foster, who does not have a big profile. Right. Who is not in a huge weight class. He's in probably a weight class that's forgotten about right now is 130. Like, he doesn't have someone going to bat for him. It's just, that part sucks. Like, it's the same cycle. I hate talking about bad decisions because nothing's going to change. Anthony Lundy, Ronald McNair, Paul Wallace are the three judges.
Do you remember our guy Tess right before the scorecards were read? He goes, "These judges don't have the experience that you normally see for guys in world title fights." And then that scorecard comes out. It was like he prefaced it was not like when I heard him say that, I was like, oh, that's kind of a weird thing to say, and I thought there was a foregone conclusion, easy decision, and then this comes out and I was like, oh geez.
Well, sometimes you would know this, like sometimes the truck gets the decision first, and they'll tell Joe and they'll tell the guys, and then
if he did that was a seamless execution from Joe Tess, which is not surprising.
I would not be shocked. He's one of the best. Right.
Yeah.
So they usually, the truck will find out. Like when I did CompuBox at the fights, we had headsets on too, and the truck is the first to know about the decision, and then they can make the graphics and all that. Mm-hmm. Then the broadcast is obviously not going to spill the beans. But Anthony Lundy, Ronald McNair, Paul Wallace. I never heard of those judges. Like we talk about wanting to have younger judges, right? We talk about not want to have the same names we hear all the time of the Dave Moretti's. Like Dr. Lou Moret was judging last night on this Masvidal card. I think he's pushing 85 years old. Oh, Jesus. All right, so let's get some younger guys in there. Like I don't know the ages of these guys. I don't even want to search. That's the thing. I don't even want to do research on this. But it's like a vicious cycle. Robbery. That was a robbery. Like you can use the word robbery for that fight. It wasn't like a Lomachenko-Haney thing. It was a close fight. Robbery.
Not close fight at all.
Foster. Like, that's the right word. Robbery, outrage from shows like ours, people on Twitter, people forgotten about the next day. and
Well,
Oshaki Foster has to live with it.
you know who we forgot about? Ishmael Barosho. How about that guy?
Oh, he got justice.
Did he?
Yeah, he knocked
By knocking out Davies and not being a world champion? No, he's never going to be a world champion. He did not get justice. And he didn't get paid either. That was not a money fight. Justice, why? Because he got a knockout on TV and then we don't hear about him ever again. That's like a consolation prize. That's not justice.
Yeah, Oshaki's not going to do it. It's not the type of fighter he is. He's not a knockout guy. That's all his fights. That's what I meant. Like all his fights are like razor thin. Like it's just the way he fight. Even when he's, keeping his opponent to 11% of. So how do you win a fight landing 11% of your punches? Like I've never seen that. Like this is crazy.
Especially when you are an Olympian who's very, very good and pushed the limit against Oscar Valdez and brought Navarrete to a draw, arguably won both of those fights. But Oshaki Foster shuts you down and makes you look like he couldn't close it. Dude, how many times did I watch a Olympian, good pro in Conceição falling over his front foot because he had no idea how far away Oshaki Foster was? Oshaki Foster's foot movement was so good. He was making this guy fall over his feet and walking into shots. Oshaki looked stronger. He was landing the harder punches. He was making him miss and look silly. 11% is the objectively the number. But listen, I'm watching with my eyes. Subjectively, he was losing every round.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, absolutely right. Did the judges see that? The judges see footwork, or they just enamored with the pace,
pushing forward, just going forward and missing?
That's what the judges. Bro, I don't really know what judges think. I don't want to know, but it seems like they really value the coming forward. They really value the 700 punches that Conceição threw compared to the 400 that Foster threw. That's the only thing I could say. That's the only edge that Conceição had in this fight, was that he just was busier. But who cares if you're not landing? Who cares if you're falling over your front foot? Like that doesn't mean much. Like, I thought it's a clean, effective punching. It's not the number one scoring criteria of boxing. And Foster was landing, and he was making him miss. And now I don't know what happens next for Oshaki Foster. That's the scary part. It's like this guy was a champ. He was probably going to go on to and unify. He's up there in his early 30s, mid 30s, which for a boxer, he's getting up there in age. Now he has to start all over again. Hate that. Keyshawn Davis got a win. That was an interesting fight. There was a lot of tomfoolery. The referee got hit in the face.
Tomfoolery.
Tomfoolery all over that fight. The fucking ref got lifted, hit in the face. Keyshawn Davis got lifted up off the ground.
Tomfoolery. What are you, Joe Biden? Joe Biden at the debate? Tomfoolery.
Malarkey.
What
is this malarkey? There's a white man speaking. Tomfoolery is one of my favorite terms, bro.
That's a good one.
That's what happened in that fight? Because I don't even like. There's not much to say about it besides there was a moment where the ref got punched in the face, and Awesome with Dueno tried to lift up Keyshawn Davis. Like, I don't know what's going on with Keyshawn Davis. He's I feel like sputtering a little bit, and he should be moving quicker.
I don't know, man.
He's really good.
He's really good. I think that was a really important fight for him because he had a guy who is not willing to just go down and was willing to fight and was taking the shots no problem and walking through the shots and making it rough. And you could see there were parts where Keyshawn wanted to lose his composure and start to foul. And there were a couple times, like when he jumped back and pulled him down, like he could have got warned a bunch of times for a couple things that he was doing. But I think he riled it in. And I think that was good for him. I think that was good for him to kind of grow through that kind of experience with a tough guy who's going to be there, who's going to make it ugly, wins every round, lands big shots. Listen, you're not going to knock everybody out, and that's okay. But I think that was a good fight that he needed before he really does step it up, because I've seen some lapses in him in some of these fights that I've called, the Patera fight, the Nahir Albright fight, where when he gets hit with some big punches, it kind of changes the way he goes about things. And this fight, he didn't show that, because that guy was landing some big shots too, not like super clean, but he's physical, he hits hard, he's heavy-handed, was being rough. And I thought that Keyshawn was able to be mature through the process, which I think is really important for him once he steps up.
Who did shine on the top ranked card? Abdullah Mason. Oh,
wow,
my goodness gracious, man. It's like, it's too late to buy stock in him, because you're not getting it at a good price, because secret is out on Abdullah Mason. He stops Henley LeBron, who's never been stopped before. This was supposed to be the toughest fight of Mason's young career. It's his ESPN debut. They put him on the main card, and he just carved up Henry LeBron like a knife through butter. Oh my goodness! Every punch in the book, you got
Luis LeBron. I don't
lightweights.
think Henry's
Luis
the other
LeBron.
one.
Oh, Luis LeBron.
I had to look that up because I thought that was wrong. But yeah, Luis LeBron, who I've called multiple times on other cards, and he's a very, very tough guy. Never been stopped, by the way.
That's what. Well, I mean, that's what you do. You put him in there like that. A guy that's never been stopped. Let's see if this young kid can stop him. And man, he's got everyone tweeting about him that he's the goods. This guy is no joke, bro. Abdullah Mason, like I feel good about the future of boxing when you have someone like him in there and get a great interview afterwards too. Like just wise beyond his years in both skill and like outside of the ring with his
kid's locked
interviewing skills.
He is just absolutely locked in, just completely dialed. I mean, that kid is something else, and physically growing into his maturity. Showed power, showed ability to close the show. Honestly, I hate saying this. I mean, I don't hate saying this, but it's going to maybe fall on some negative ideas. But he does the things that Shakur needs to learn: how to stay in the pocket with a guy and build on your damage. The kid hurts you. He landed an uppercut in the second round that busted Luis LeBron's nose, and the blood started coming down, and then he just started building, and he just runs you over. Listen, Luis LeBron was gonna last. If he let him live, that guy was gonna come back. But he didn't let him live. And that shows next level ability to build on damage and to be a finisher. The kid's a finisher. He knows how to finish. He knows when he hurts you. I don't know whether he feels it on his gloves, whether he's able to witness it with his eyes when he sees you. He knows you're hurt, and he goes in there and he's willing to stay in the pocket. He's willing to watch those punches whiz by, boom, 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 and get touched a little bit. A lot of guys aren't willing to do that. Right. He's willing to do that. He's willing to stay in the pocket with these guys. And LeBron's not a bad puncher either. The guy is physical. He looked like he was in great shape that night. When he came in the ring, I was like, this is a test. I know this guy. Yeah, Abdullah Mason is the goods. And when Tim Bradley gave him the double stamp approval of that is spot on. That kid
would you say, like, look at lightweight. Would he beat like the bottom 5-ish at lightweight?
Who are we talking about?
Let me pull it up right now. Because they pulled up the top 10 rankings last night. Like, I always just go to Ring because it's just like they put it together. It's not the end all be all, but right now Ring Magazine has Zaire Abdullah
beats him.
Mark Chamberlain.
Don't know who that is.
He looks like a Brit. He's tatted up. He is a UK. He's 16-0 at 12 KOs. Keyshawn Davis at number 8.
I mean, I wouldn't say that yet. I don't know.
Frank Martin?
Not yet.
Murataya?
No, not yet.
Baranchik?
Nah, 12 rounds is a long time. Kambosos? He beats Kambosos. I think he beats Kambosos.
Point being, it's like he is fifth top. He's 19 years old.
Top 10.
How old is it?
Top 10 guy.
He can beat top 15.
Yes.
And this is who Top Rank needs to start pushing. This is what Top Rank does. Shakur is leaving. Okay, we have Bruce Carrington, who is primed for a run. We have Keyshawn Davis, who is primed for a run. We have Abdullah Mason, who is waiting in the wings, who's now entering primed for a run. We have
Abdullah Mason. We're looking at top of the sport type
pound for pound.
Like DNA. Like, we're not, like, this is not, like, I don't see Keyshawn Davis being pound for pound fighter of, in the sport of boxing. Abdullah Mason, I can see that. I think he has pound for pound DNA.
Like, it's the it factor.
Yeah. No, he is absolutely something special.
But I'm just saying that's the embarrassment of riches that Top Rank has. It's like, okay, Teofimo has open beef with Top Rank.
Well, that's why they don't play games. That's why they don't play games.
They are so good at finding this young talent. Like, they have so many young. Xander Zayas, who is ready. Like,
that kid's a star in the making.
They just keep replenishing it. They got the ESPN deal. I don't know how much longer they're going to have the ESPN deal, but it's not. They're not top heavy. Like, the Shakur's gone now. Crawford's gone. Tyson Fury, I don't even know if he's still associated with Top Rank. So they're kind of missing like that top star. But man, they'll do this type of card 15 times a year or 12 times a year on ESPN and at 10:30 after a college football game or after a UFC event. Abdullah Mason will be headlining soon.
Oh yeah.
Gervonta Davis, and it's just
Well, he was the
what's
shining
happening
light of the card.
by far. By far, it was amazing because I was watching and I was in the live chat for PBB.com for the Masvidal Diaz fight. The main event ended up being a fun fight. It looked like two drunk uncles willing to stand and batter each other. Which what it was. The memes were amazing. Like everyone saying, like my Tio's still got it. It was legitimately like let's all gather around. Let's all gather around the barbecue, and our two drunk uncles are going to entertain us for 10 rounds. That's what Masvidal and Diaz did. I'm not going to lie, bro. It was entertaining. Like
I was just watching it before I came on here, and it's like I'm watching two 40-year-old MMA guys like slap happy each other back and forth.
They're slapping. I thought Masvidal won. Our stats are everywhere. I was doing CompuBox.
Well, Masvidal looked like a boxer. At least, like
Yeah,
his boxing skills looked okay. He had his hands in the right position. He was jabbing. He was moving. He had like a little right hook. He stayed in position. But Diaz is just like
they were not going to let Diaz lose that.
No, he looked like he just put his surfboard down and was fighting on the beach. Like
literally, that's what kind of made it fun. Like it was a little bit of charm. Like you knew what you were getting heading in. You knew you were not getting some like high class boxing. You were getting two names.
No, they're both super slow. They like there's no power. MMA guys have a really hard time developing power in the boxing ring with shoes on and having their feet set, especially, with their hands, but like, and putting combinations together and also just keeping up with the endurance to be able to actually still hit hard after throwing, 40, 50 punches in a round, which they never have to do. So that transition of power almost never happens.
No, it's so clear.
Man, there's no speed, there's no snap, there's no power.
Sergio Pettis fought Chris Avila, who's like Nate Diaz's friend and like a fringe boxer, and Avila pieced him up because Pettis just had zero power. The whole card featured a lot of MMA guys. It had Sean Garcia, who's the brother of Ryan Garcia,
who got smoked by Amato,
steamrolled by Amato Vargas.
Saw that coming a mile away.
Vargas. Ryan Garcia made a fool of himself once again. He was in the corner acting like an idiot. Horrible week for him.
Horrible month for him. 2 months for him.
Okay, yeah. Like I didn't even like the rant that he went on this past weekend. I just couldn't believe like a human could say those things. I don't care if he was drunk. I don't care what state of mind he's in. To say those things about black people, to say those things about George Floyd, Muslims, like you're a pure embarrassment. You're an embarrassment to the sport. You've been embarrassing the sport for the last 2 months, like the PED stuff and the lead up in the Haney fight. That's one thing. This is just like disgusting, where it's like getting picked up by Bleacher Report, it's getting picked up by House of Highlights, getting picked up by the major sports outlets. And it's just gross. It's horrible. I really think the guy, he says he's going to rehab, but like, go yesterday. You shouldn't have even been at your brother's fight.
He needs a brain transplant, let alone rehab. I don't know. I don't want to give this kid any more attention. I'm tired of talking about him.
Like, people are tweeting at me like, you're being very quiet on Ryan Garcia. Like, do I need to come out and say, yeah, obviously don't say anything negative or horrible. Don't use the N-word.
Don't be racist.
Okay, you need me, Dan Canobio, a freaking podcaster. I have to come out and say what Ryan Garcia said was bad. Like, give me a break. Like, it's just to the point where you just said it. You don't want to even give him any attention anymore. Like, it's obviously bad. Like, it's horrible.
It's getting to a point because that's what he wants is attention, and he's realizing that he no longer can do the thing that actually gets him positive attention, which is fighting. He's good at fighting, but he's not good at anything else. And everything else he does gets attention as well, but it's all negative. So he's keeping that up. Let's move on.
Exactly. Forget about it. I don't want to talk about him for a long, long time. Unfortunately, Danny Jacobs looks like his career has come to a close. He lost to Shane Mosley Jr. That was the co-main event on this Masvidal Diaz card. He just looked like a guy that he was not fighting for money. He's not fighting for. He was just like probably wanted to give it one more go. It's your guy. You guys are your buddies. Like he just didn't have that hunger. He couldn't pull the trigger. It was probably just like, why am I doing this exactly?
Yeah, it was. Honestly, it was when I heard about it, I was like, it's not a good idea because I saw the age, 37. Dude, I fought when I was 37. I remember I was fighting Mikel Lapierre, and like I had a really good fight night performance that night. But I remember being in the corner like in between round 2 and 3. And I remember telling my manager, I was like, I had an existential crisis during that fight. He goes, really? What happened? Really? I was just thinking, like, what the hell am I doing in here? Like, why, what are we doing? Like, It's
That's all it
37 is
takes,
a
right?
hard age to fight, dude.
37. I can barely get out of bed. Let alone get in the ring. That must be such a weird moment for you or any athlete, because it's like you never had that thought. Like when you're in a
No.
fight, like you're so dialed. In
Yeah.
between rounds, you're thinking like, oh, I would like to be in the crowd with Dan and his dad hanging out, having a beer, rather than freaking throwing 1,000 punches.
I was calling one of the fights for pro boxing. We have like crazy fights all the time, like insane bloodbaths. Like, and we're watching these fights, and I'm watching this fight, and it was my weight class. I think it was actually Lipinets and Davies,
Oh my
which
god!
the fight was sick. Davies gets his nose like turned around upside down and spilling all over the place. There's blood all over my suit, and I'm watching. I used to be in fights like that. I'm watching that, and I'm like, I used to watch that on TV and be like, oh man. I was like, if I was that guy, I'd be doing this, and like, I would just be protecting my nose. And I remember when I was like that, I'm watching that, and I'm like, God damn, I don't want to do that at all. And I was like, oh, I'm done. I'm super done. If I don't want to be that guy, then I'm not that guy anymore.
Not that guy. You're not that guy, pal. You were that guy.
I was that guy. Not that guy anymore.
Danny Jacobs.
And I think
career.
Danny realized that he's not that guy anymore either.
Yeah, great career. Not taking anything away from Shane Mosley Jr.
No, not at all. Great career.
He had a nice jab. Did just enough to beat Jacobs. Awesome career, Danny Jacobs. Like, this guy had cancer, came back from cancer, and got to the highest of levels. Fought Golovkin when no one wanted to
won 2 world titles and fought huge names. Always was. Even the fights, he's got 5 losses. All of his losses were always respectable. Super physically talented. Right? Super physically talented guy. Great athlete. Awesome amateur. Everyone who saw him train and saw him fight, always speaks super highly about him. And I think
about Ryan Garcia, right? Being a piece of shit and being like a horrible person for boxing. Danny Jacobs was at
great
one
person.
Point, a great ambassador for the sport. Yep. He had those commercials that aired everywhere nationally about him overcoming cancer, like for Sloan Kettering, and now I'm a championship boxer. Just had that look of like a top notch dude, like a solid guy,
like a statesman, like he should run for office.
Baby. So if this is it for him, which I think it is, because your boy Keith Connolly posted a thing on Instagram. I said, "What a career! This is probably the end." And I love to give these fighters their flowers at the end of their career. Awesome career, just achieved way more than he probably even set out, especially when he was on the sidelines with cancer. But what a funny card, man! 20.
Wait, hold on. Every retired fighter deserves an applause, because making out of this sport alive is an accomplishment, because
he's like a 1%er too.
A lot of people don't.
With a freaking ton of money, fame,
and a world champion.
He's a 1%er of the boxing world. I don't know if he's a Hall of Famer. There was a line from Mauro Ranallo on the card last night that he was like, Danny doesn't know if he's a Hall of Famer, and this was going to be his last run. It's obviously up for debate, but that was a fun, interesting card last night. I watched it top to bottom. 18,000 fans were in attendance. Like, I couldn't believe that number. They just love Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz is a folk hero, man. I didn't think he won the fight. They were not going to give it to Masvidal with that crowd. It was like 80% Diaz.
Wasn't Masvidal's promotional company too?
Yeah, Game Bred Fighting. Diaz
still can't win the fight.
Funny. Like, he didn't do anything special. I thought Masvidal looked like a boxer for certain points. Diaz just slapped him a few times. Like, Masvidal landed more punches. It's funny. It was just an interesting weekend of fights. But and then we had Ioka lost to Fernando Martinez.
Oh, wow.
Sunday morning. And the significance there is that Fernando Martinez, that was a unification, and
Martinez, hey, guess who the other champion in that weight class is?
Bam Rodriguez.
Rodriguez, baby.
Bam has said he wants to fight and unify, but he has that rematch clause. So I could see Bam fighting Estrada again in the fall, Fernando Martinez with a defense, and then maybe Martinez versus Bam at some point next year in a unification. Yeah.
I don't need to see Estrada Bam again, but I get giving the champion his opportunity if he wants it. But
there it is. Yep, rematches. Hopefully, Shakur Foster gets a rematch. But story of the weekend to me, Abdullah Mason. Story of the weekend.
Positive story of the weekend is Abdullah.
Yeah, Abdullah Mason. Positive.
Is it Abdullah or Abdullah? Because I heard both.
I think it's Abdullah.
Abdullah. Okay. Got to say this guy's name right. He's going to be around for a while.
We got to learn this guy's name. He's going to be keeping the lights on for us doing what we do here. Love the kid. Shakur, what will he do next? We'll hear about that, I'm sure, in the next week. upcoming. Yeah, that's really it. We'll be back at the end of the week with another episode. What we got coming up this weekend? Is there? Oh, we got Boots Ennis in Philadelphia.
Adesanya, yeah. All right.
I don't love that fight.
No, but it's a good litmus test, and it's his first fight
I
with
do want to see
Matchroom.
Boots though.
Yeah, of course. I want to see Boots.
Crowd.
I want to see Boots fight the guy who fixes your iPhone. I want to see Boots at everybody.
Speaking of that, mine's very cracked. Sound doesn't. I gotta get a new iPhone. Thank you.
Come on, dude. You're a world class podcaster. You're like a well known guy. People take photos with you and tell you that they listen to you every week. You need to step.
Not only that, I literally shoot our videos like on my phone, like this.
That's it. So then all right. So now I'm being your accountant.
It's a write off.
It's a write off. I'm being your accountant now. I'm giving you business advice here.
Write it off. What is that? What does a write off even mean? I don't know. You just write it off. All right, everyone. That's from Seinfeld.
Sorry, guys, for coughing into the mic. I'm a little under the weather from my travel.
Yes, it's finally catching up to Chris, who doesn't get sick, who's a picture of health.
Turns out I'm human.
I guess 3 continents in 10 days will catch up to you.
Yeah, I counted. It was 10 cities in 13 days.
Get some rest. Come back. Yeah. Got Pro Box. You got another episode of this show at the end of the week. Protect yourselves at all times. Keep your hands up at all times. Stay out of those DMs. Good night.